So back to our scheduled program. So this week's topic, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to try to have some really juicy topics for y'all for the month of June. And I want to focus it around Pride Month because this is June. So I think the theme for what I'm going to talk about today is going to be about LGBTQ community and going forward until the end of June. And then, of course, we have our celebrity guest coming up. That's going to be a surprise. The topic this week is going to be about, it's going to be kind of, I would say, controversial. It could be a little bit intense. And we do have two cards. So out of my deck, the Love Frequency deck, which is the Sun Power Couple. Let me know if y'all see that because the light could be reflecting it. And then we have the Portal. So we have the Portal here, and stay tuned to the Love Frequency podcast. Okay, you guys, so this topic came to me and I have experienced this. So I know whatever I'm going to say is going to be controversial. Some people may not relate, but if you do relate, tap in, subscribe, and have a conversation about it. There's ways to converse with people. If you don't agree in a positive, you can talk to them in a positive way because I do it every day. I tell people, no, I disagree with people, but it's how you talk to people at the end of the day. So the topic that I want to talk about is domestic violence in LGBT relationships. I was a victim of that a long time ago. That was like probably, I would say, at least a good almost 20 years now that happened because I'm older now. And I would never forget what the lady told me back then. She basically said, the police officer. So when I say lady, the police got called. And she basically said that in the LGBT community, they have the highest domestic violence rate. You would be surprised. Higher than heterosexual relationships. Women, especially, she said, they have the highest. And then from there, you have the men. And then from there, like whatever you relate to, the statistics can vary, but just straightforward, men, women, like same sex, women are the highest, she said. And I thought, I was younger at the time, in my 20s, and I was like, I wonder why that is. Story time. When I was younger, when I came out to my family, it wasn't the issue of being gay. That wasn't the problem. The problem was making sure you choose the right person that's going to be kind to you and not going to mistreat you. So that was my mother's concern, okay? She let me know, my mother's older. She's an OG. She was an OG, of course. She said, look, I have a lot of, gay male friends, but the issue sometimes in the community is violence and harm to your partner. And I didn't believe her until I got into a relationship with somebody. And sure enough, and her thing too was dominant women. It's not that I have an issue with what your preference, but picking a certain type of people, not to judge them. But yeah, some of them, they do be coming off kind of aggressive. Not saying all, but from what she told me and then from what I experienced, some women that are a little bit on a dominant side can be a little abusive, but also women in general can be. I don't know if it's because of our hormones. I don't know if it's because just naturally the natural law of feminine and masculinity. No matter how you look, no matter how you dress, your soul is your soul, your personality is your personality, and having those type of emotions is going to make you be a certain way. So that was her thing. When I, got into that relationship, sure enough, ended up in a 4-year long abusive relationship. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, as accountability, it was by choice. I kept going back to that person. No one put a gun to my head or anything like that. And I stayed with that person for just various reasons, not knowing better, just being young. But of course, thankfully, getting out of that situation, but not everyone can make it out. So I will say this is a sensitive topic to those who are in a abusive relationship, whether that's verbally or physically, or has experienced it or know someone that experienced it, or currently in one. So I do want to kind of be mindful of that, but I just want to share my story on that, is that I take accountability because that's what I did. That was my choices. I was young. I didn't know better. And it all boils down to self-love. Like I, at the time, didn't I would say love myself, because if you can allow someone to mistreat you like that, then that's all part of self-love. I just wasn't aware. I didn't have self-awareness of that. That's why I preach a lot of that now. I teach, self-love, loving yourself, not staying in relationships longer than you need to, and just waiting on that right person, not, going into these rebounds, jumping in and out of relationships, because that to me is a form of abuse to yourself. You are abusing yourself, and spiritually, whether you think of it or not. That is why certain people can't attract certain people that's abusing them, because low key, spiritually, you don't love yourself. You don't like yourself. So you are what you attract, and you attracting these type of people that mistreat you because you're mistreating yourself. And as I mentioned, this is controversial. So somebody come across this video and they want to like argue back and forth, like, this person hurt me, da 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 da. We really have to take that accountability. You know how many people, family members, was like, get out of that relationship. I didn't have to be in that relationship. There were so many people, family and friends, that supported me, that was rooting for me, and they would have helped me get out of that. But I was the one that kept running back because I just didn't believe in myself enough at the time as a 20-something-year-old, being influenced by the world that, I was just being hard-headed. That's all. And this is not to say that someone's situation is different from the other. I'm just, telling my truth here. This is the podcast topic for this week. And it's just all about taking accountability and really recognizing the signs of domestic violence and abuse in the LGBT community that not a lot of people talk about. So I'm only giving it from my point of view. Why do I think that is? Why do I think that we as women, firstly, because I am a woman, I can't really speak for the men, but I can tell a story about one. For example, while I was in that relationship, my ex at the time had male friends that she's staying out with. And he, at the time, this was like 2009-ish, he was like, yeah, that's how I met my husband, because he punched me in the face. And I literally looked at him like, are you kidding me? Like, that's why you decided to get in this relationship, because he punched you in the face and y'all ended up in a relationship. But that was normal back then. Well, I'm not going to say normal, but you know what I'm trying to say. That was just the thing. So my topic to you guys is, you are loved. Focus on self-healing. If you have family and friends that is willing to help you and support you, please get out of that situation. But yes, LGBTQ and men. And then, as I mentioned, from there, whatever your pronouns are, I don't know the statistics, but it does change and vary. But as a woman, we as women have the highest domestic violence. And some people don't make it out of that relationship. So I'm here to say, work on yourself, work on self-love. And whatever you need to do for you, do that. And I know it can take time. It took me 4 years to get out of that relationship. And you know what helped pull me out of that situation? My mom. That was when my mom literally moved from the Midwest to the East Coast. Not to steer. Another key point outside of the domestic violence is women who portray themselves as a masculinity that come off as a form of aggression. I think, and I could be 100% wrong, it's identity. It's something to do with like self-love, but also identity crisis. That's just the word that I'm using, an identity crisis. I feel like sometimes with women who are, let's say, lesbian, or women who say I'm bisexual, at least the bisexual woman is honest and say, hey, I know who I am. I love men and I also love women. And then you have some studs, or whatever they like to be called, dominant women. In their family, it could get a little harder, meaning, some of their parents may be like, dang, I asked for a daughter, but yet you're dressing like a male. And for the feminine women, I feel like we don't really get that much shade because we're feminine. The parents probably be like, okay, well, at least I still have my daughter, whatever your decision may be. My family accepted me regardless, I think, of how I would have dressed or not. But I have also seen, having some of my, dominant friends explain to me how their family kind of mistreated them. And I think it all boiled down to how they dress. So to me, that also added a layer of insecurity to their personality, a layer of identity crisis, and just a little bit more mental health issues. Because not only that, they're trying to come out and be themselves, but they can't, because now they got to deal with family and what their family think, what people think, and then what society think. What society think as a person, like, okay, you dress this way, so as that, you need to take care of me, because that's heteronormal heteronormative, but you're in a LGBTQ relationship. So there is no such thing as that, I think. So I don't believe in stuff like, okay, if you're masculine, you need to take care of all the bills or whatever. Because we're in this relationship, it's about us, it's about growth, it's about collaboration, it's about teamwork. Even when I was younger, dating women in the 90s, y'all, not to tell my age, but coming out, I never had that mentality because I never liked men to even date men to the point where they taught me like this is the norm, this is the man and woman dynamic. I never saw it like that. And I will share another story time, not to get off topic of that later, but in a sense that kind of made me have identity issues too, because choosing the wrong people, I thought it was my job to take care of everybody without even putting a filter on it. Take care of my family, take care of my relationships, just take care of people without even setting a boundary. And I think that's where masculine energy comes into the play. And I'm not gonna lie, whether that be a father figure or cousin, male figures, or just a best friend that's, you know, masculine figure, I think having that masculine energy teach feminine energy, like this is the balance, this is the laws. Not law like, you know, political law, but the spiritual laws. Honestly, who gives a fuck? Like, we got all these labels and stuff. Long as whatever works for your household, that's all that matters. But just to keep it simple without being too over some of your head who come across this YouTube or whatever platform you watch it on, for the namesake, masculine and feminine energy, regardless if you're a man or a woman, spiritually, it's all about balance. So if you don't understand, or if you have too much femininity, it's gonna the scale somewhere else, and vice versa. If you have too much masculine energy, it's gonna tip the scales another way. So with that being said, as far as just from my experience with the masculine women, I think some of them have, not all, I'm saying some, have had issues with family. So that kind of created their identity. I'm supposed to be taking care of the household, and it made them more aggressive. And then some even to the point of abusing their partner. So I don't know. Mental health played a part, drinking, drugs. And remember my other prior video, I talked about that, sex, drugs, and alcohol. All of that plays a part in how you treat your partner. Because some people may have grew up in a household full of, I don't know, sex, drugs, and alcohol. So that's what they use to cope with. And then they get into these relationships and say, oh, I'm in an LGBTQ relationship. This is how I'm supposed to be. When really, it's okay to be yourself. And I don't think no one really wrote the laws, because there is no laws, spiritual laws, on how a woman who dresses masculine should be, or a woman who dresses feminine should be. Just be yourself. And whatever works for your household, that's what it's going to be. But if you feel like you're not, or you can't be yourself, then you need to really think about what it is you're doing, what it is that you want to be. And y'all want to know a funny story time when I came out? One thing my sister told me, I was young, y'all, so coming out in the 90s, you know what she said? She said, I don't care what you're doing. But what I got a problem with is if you start lying about what you're doing. So that goes for, if you know you like women, be with women, or don't be afraid to tell people, fuck you, I'm gonna go be with my girlfriend, regardless if family disagree with it or not, and vice versa. Males too. So whoever's watching this, whatever part of the LGBTQ community that you're in, always be yourself, always be authentic. So with that being said, that was my sister's only issue. She said, I really don't have a problem with anything. I just got a problem with some people not really being who they are. And when I was in my 30s, I'm not gonna lie, that's when I started transitioning and not really hanging around too many friends that are still lying about what they're into. Because we have one human experience right now until we're in a different dimension, whatever you guys want to call it. So right now on this plane in a human form, why are you not being yourself? Why are you not loving who you want to love for real? Why are you not being with who you want to be with for real? So that's why love frequency, once again, is about that too. It's about love. It's about energy. The frequency of the 528 hertz is what heals the body. That is going to elevate you, and that is going to heal you. So for me, if I'm going to preach something, I need to be around people that's authentic. I need to be around people that's not lying about what they're doing, not afraid to tell people that they love them or who they love. So just keep it real. And that goes for your sexuality as well. But your preference is your preference, and my preference too is to say I'm not in alignment in this friendship. When I was in my teens and 20s, that was cool. Hiding it was okay. But now we in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. I don't think that's cool to hide what you're into. And that's what my sister told me when I was younger. Because at first I was like, I'm not going to tell nobody. I'm not going to tell my family. I'm going to just do this or whatever. And she was like, oh, that's so fake, girl. And I'm happy that she did that, because I started out young saying, fuck what people think. This is what I'm doing. And that's what it is. And I never looked back. So I feel like we talked about two different topics here. We started off with, just to summarize and bring it all in, we talked about the domestic violence in our community is bad. We have the highest rate of domestic violence. Number two, part of potentially why it's bad is because some of us are still battling our identity. And that can come with us coping with that identity through drugs, sex, and alcohol. We're not being our true, authentic self. We're not doing what we want to do. And you know what? Maybe next topic, I'll talk about just sex, because a lot of y'all in these relationships, whatever, and y'all not keeping it real about what y'all like in sex either. That goes for masculine women. And y'all may hate me on this too. If we are women, right? And you, whoever you're with, this is for them or whatever. If you know that you like a certain type of sexual activity, why are you not being honest with your partner about what you like? Also, that goes back to identity. Some of these dominant women feel like because they are a certain way, they're not supposed to be pleased a certain way. I don't know. But you will get that percentage of women who say, no, I just don't like that genuinely. But I don't know. I'm going to say, this is going to be my ego talking right now. This is my ego talking. I'm going to say, I believe it, but I don't, because we're all human beings and some of us can be fluid. So if you telling me that you don't like getting head or whatever, y'all know the deal. Y'all films know how some of the studs or dominant women be acting. But then you'll go see them privately or secretly go be with a man. Just be bisexual, or just tell them, look, I dress like a dom. I dress like a stud. And guess what? I have a girlfriend, but maybe I like men too. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Because like my sister said, at least you being real, at least you being honest. I'd rather for somebody to be real and honest. Look, this is me. This is how I like to dress. This is what I like sexually, and that's what it is. And I feel like the more you free yourself, the more that aggression behavior would just go away, because you don't give a fuck. You're being yourself. You're not withholding emotions. That's where aggression, I think, comes from. It comes from emotions that you're hiding or withholding. Some of it comes from childhood, however we were raised. And not to make this too long, but just trying to summarize some takes. And you guys can comment and drop some comments or email me and let me know your thoughts on why y'all think us as women have the highest domestic violence rates, besides our hormones, because we already know that play a part of it, hormones. But it's really bad, and we have to get a hold of it. So I'm going to get into the cards, and if I think of something else juicy, I'm going to drop it. But now let's transition. Once you start being yourself, these cards is going to flow into what I'm about to say next. Be with your power couple. Be with the person that you want to be with. Be yourself. Be authentic. Some doors are going to open for you. Today is Tuesday, so I believe Jupiter is exalted. Sorry, I said exalted today. That means that abundance, energy, new transformation is coming down the pipe for you, and that fits into the cards. So I'm going to get into that, the portal, what that means, and the sun power couple. So stay tuned for that. And I know y'all probably getting sick of me, but I talk about this all the time. And that plays a role in how people treat you every day. Have you ever been in a relationship and you just come home from work and that person just arguing with you, they curse you out? Why? The sun is outside. Everything is beautiful. You know, it's a fucking vibe. So what's your problem? Like, why do you have an attitude? And I know some of y'all can relate being in a same-sex relationship, but what's the problem with that? And I think it goes back to freedom. I think it goes back to being yourself, because when you're free, you have nothing to hide. I ran into somebody the other day, y'all. I'm up here eating, what was I? At the crab place, right? And it was a guy and it was a girl. I just want y'all to know I am not bisexual, but I talk to men. Not like that, but if a man saw me at the bar or whatever, I'll have a conversation with anybody because I'm a cool person like that. But what I loved was that he was with a lady, and then he was like, look, we poly. And I've seen some LGBT poly people. I don't have a problem with that either. My issue is liars. My issue is people that's not being real. My issue is people dating people and getting in a relationship thing, because I'm not a poly person. So let's say I meet someone tomorrow and they was like, yeah, I'm monogamous, and come to find out they really are poly, they got 5-10 people lined up. I'm gonna be pissed on that part. But if they come from the jump and say, hey, this is what it is, this is what I am, this is who I am, this is what I like, and they got a dope personality, I'll rock with it, because hey, if you're being yourself, and it is what it is. But let me tell you what this card represents. So it represents, when y'all see these are two women, right? So this is my tarot deck, or intuitive deck, shall I say. And as you can see, you see two women here. They beautiful. You see the rose coming out of the concrete. You see one who has a feather, who is the wisdom and the knowledge and the voice and the storyteller, right? And then you have the other one. She is the musician. She is the creative one in this marriage. This is a sacred union. So when you see this card in the deck, this represents soulmate, twin flame, the highest of the most powerful love union. There is also another card in here called Severing Union, which is like a marriage. They mean different things, and I wrote it in the book, so you guys can use the book for your own intuition, see what the card's about. But I'm telling you, when I wrote and created these cards, this is what it represented. It represented, or represents, two women coming together, being able to collaborate, being able to be themselves, being able to love themselves, and they have grown and healed. And not only they have grown and healed, they are healing each other through the divine, which is like music, waking up each other's gifts in one another. Maybe she woke up her inspiration to write and be a storyteller, and vice versa. She woke up her gift to do music and be creative. Together they are one. So when you see this card, just know that your situation is one. It's a love that is the highest form of union. You got the masculine and the feminine energy, and this is a spiritual deck. So there's no such thing in this deck as man versus woman. It's more spiritual, masculine, feminine energy, and we balance each other. So that's what this card is. And then we have the portal. Sorry, one more thing before we get into the portal. I forgot to also mention, when I talk a lot on my channel, how this also what inspired this card. But when I talk a lot on my channel, I talk about rebounds. I'm like, keep it real. You know, some people in relationships that they really don't want to be in. So I started creating this deck to represent healing, shadow work, twin flame, soulmates, and the most powerful healing from not only yourself, but the other person, yourself. So when y'all come together, y'all form a union that is unbreakable. It's beautiful. And sometimes we're in marriages and relationships where we just are not in alignment. This also represents alignment. It also represents inspiration. Have you ever been in a relationship where as I mentioned, that partner inspires you and you inspired them? I think I mentioned that. The storyteller inspired the creative inspired the storyteller. So as one, they create a powerful union where they're able to collaborate on projects. They're balanced together. Hopefully I explained that. But yeah, and you know what, if I have time, I'm gonna try to pull out the other cards so y'all can see them side by side and what they mean, because when you pull them, you may think they mean the same thing, but it's not. And when I say that, have you ever met someone where you need to heal, that there's some shadow work you need to do, you know, that you're not over an ex, but you met the perfect person? Maybe they're your soulmate, maybe they're your twin flame, they're beautiful, but you're just not ready to be in that relationship. You're not complete yet. You're not in full alignment yet to really bear the fruits of that relationship. So you let them go. That's why certain cards in the deck may represent that, like, wow, you met a good person, but it may be something y'all both still need to work on before y'all come together. So you see that card, the sun power couple, y'all are complete. It may have took 5 years for y'all to get there, 10 years. But when you see that card, it means that y'all both are coming into alignment, and you have done the work and they have done the work. So now y'all come together and boom, y'all create a power couple, the sun power couple. All right, so we have the portal here. And if you guys notice here, you see a beautiful spiritual being walking through the gate. Before I get into detail, what could this mean? It means transformation. It means something is about to happen. Doors are about to open, and all you need to do is walk through the door. And sorry about the glare, you guys. These cards are so shiny and beautiful that it reflects the light too much from my light that I have here, and I apologize for that. But let me see if I can, the portal, let's see if I can give you guys a close-up of it. So it just means transformation is coming. There's something big that's about to go down, and all you really need to do is have confidence in yourself to walk through the door. Opportunities are about to open up, but don't just sit there in the door and run the other way. Don't do that one. Walk through the door, because walking through that door, walking through the portal is going to unlock new gifts, unlock new spiritual alignment for you. So you just have to take that risk and walk through the portal, walk through that gate and transform. So as we wrap that up, I want to try to give you guys a schedule of what I want to talk about for the coming weeks. So today we talked about domestic violence in the LGBT community and identity issues a little bit. Next week, I want to talk about love bombing, because some of you guys experienced that. I think in the community, where we call it U-Haul, a lot of that U-Haul love bombing, that is very high in the LGBT community. So that's going to be the topic that I want to discuss next week. Okay? So I would say stay tuned so you guys can follow the topics that we're going to talk about for the month of June. And then we also have a celebrity guest potentially for June as well. That's going to be a surprise. But as always, I love you guys, and stay tuned for new releases weekly. Okay.